When you think about visiting ancient ruins, I mean, there's this ingrained expectation that you're just, you know, supposed to suffer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like you picture yourself on this forced march under the blazing Mediterranean sun, right? And your feet are just covered in blisters.
Right, from all those uneven cobblestones.
Exactly. And there's a guide with a tiny umbrella 50 paces ahead of you, shouting dates you can barely hear over all the traffic.
It's treated like this bizarre rite of passage. I mean, there's this collective delusion that if you aren't completely exhausted and dehydrated and, rubbing your lower back, well, you didn't genuinely experience the history.
Which is just such a strange way to approach learning. So welcome to today's Deep Dive on the Travel Podcast by ExcursionPass.
We are so glad you're tuning in.
If you're a regular listener, you know our entire philosophy here is to be your advanced scouts.
Yeah.
We want to anticipate every single doubt, objection, and logistical headache you might have about a travel experience before you ever click book.
Right, we really dig into the sources and the reviews so you don't have to.
Exactly. It's like listening to a couple of fun experts who have actually lived the experience, sharing every single detail. We want you to feel like you're right there living it while you listen, just hanging out in the passenger seat with us.
And today, we are heading to the heart of Italy to look at a highly rated excursion run by Wheel Tours. It's the Rome Catacombs and Appian Way golf cart tour.
But we are going to look at this through a very specific lens today.
Yeah, we want to answer a broader question. Does introducing modern comfort, specifically an open-air electric golf cart, somehow sever our connection to the gritty reality of the ancient world?
Or does it actually enhance our ability to understand it? Because I have to admit, I have some serious skepticism about this right out of the gate.
Hear that a lot.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I look at this itinerary, experiencing Rome from the back of a golf cart feels a bit, I don't know, theme park to me.
Oh, totally.
Rome is famously a walking city. Walking the streets, feeling those uneven stones under your feet, navigating the alleys. Isn't that the authentic way to do it? Why pay to ride in a cart?
Well, that is definitely the most common hesitation travelers have. We naturally associate physical struggle with authenticity.
Right, like you have to earn it.
Exactly. But we really need to look at the biology and psychology of how humans actually process information, especially in an environment like Rome during the summer.
Are we talking about the heat?
We're talking about the cognitive load of physical exhaustion.
Meaning your brain only has so much bandwidth at any given moment.
Precisely. I mean, if your body is desperately trying to regulate its core temperature in 95-degree heat, and your brain is constantly calculating how not to trip over a cobblestone or, get hit by a Vespa.
Yeah, your prefrontal cortex is totally maxed out.
Exactly. You simply do not have the cognitive resources left to absorb the geopolitical nuances of the Roman Empire. You're in survival mode, not learning mode.
So the idea is that the physical comfort of the cart actually frees up your brain to pay attention to the history.
It does.
That makes sense conceptually, but is the heat in Rome really that bad that you genuinely need a vehicle to escape it?
It really is, mainly because of the urban heat island effect. And that's compounded by Rome's specific architecture. The city is fundamentally constructed of thermal mass.
Like what, specifically?
Things like travertine, marble, and those basalt cobblestones.
Kind of like the stones you'd put in an oven to bake pizza.
Exactly like an oven stone.
Yeah.
These materials absorb solar radiation all day long, hold on to that heat, and then radiate it back out into the air.
Oh, wow. So you aren't just getting hit by the sun from above. You're being baked from below and from the sides by the buildings themselves.
It's intense. When we looked at the traveler reviews from our sources, a user named Carol M. highlighted this perfectly.
What do they say?
Well, they noted this was the only golf cart tour their family took during a massive European trip. And their primary takeaway was just the immense luxury of bypassing that radiant heat.
I can imagine. So you get the shade of the cart's roof.
And the continuous breeze. It fundamentally changes your physical state.
Okay, I can concede the point on the heat. But let's talk about the logistics of actually touring from a moving vehicle. Because Rome is incredibly loud.
Oh, it's deafening sometimes.
Right. You have sirens, massive crowds, traffic. If I'm in a moving cart, how am I possibly supposed to hear the guide talking about Julius Caesar over the sound of a passing bus?
That is where the specific operational setup of Wheel Tours comes into play. First off, this is a strict small group format.
So we aren't talking about a massive caravan?
No, it's capped at a maximum of 14 people across a few carts. But more importantly, the solution to the noise pollution is technology. Every single passenger gets a dedicated audio headset,
Oh, nice.
and it's linked directly to a microphone worn by the guide.
So the guide isn't just, like, shouting over their shoulder while driving.
Not at all. The audio is piped directly into your ear. You can be looking entirely in the opposite direction at a monument, and you hear the guide's voice with crystal clarity.
That is a game changer. The sources actually emphasize that this setup means you never miss the subtle historical details.
And you definitely don't miss the guide's jokes.
Right, which completely shifts the dynamic from a dry lecture to, a fun conversational storytelling experience.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're cool, we're comfortable, and we can actually hear the guide. Let's dig into what we are actually looking at, because the route doesn't just circle the main tourist traps.
It covers a lot of ground.
Right. The tour starts in the historic center at Via Urbana 40, and then it heads out to some massive monumental ruins. I'm looking at the list here. Circus Maximus, the Baths of Caracalla, Bocca della Verita, Piazza Venezia, and the Pyramid of Cestius.
And that pyramid is a perfect example of why having a guide who can provide context is so crucial.
Because if you just walk past it, you see this massive Egyptian pyramid integrated right into the ancient defensive walls of Rome.
And it feels completely out of place.
It feels like an architectural glitch. Why on earth is there a pyramid in the middle of Italy?
It actually goes back to the year 30 BC. Rome, under Augustus, had just conquered Egypt, defeating Cleopatra and Mark Antony. So suddenly, Egypt is absorbed into the Roman Empire, and this massive wave of Egyptomania sweeps through Rome. Everything Egyptian becomes the ultimate status symbol.
Oh, so it was essentially an ancient architectural trend, like wealthy people today building mid-century modern homes just because they saw it in a magazine.
Exactly. A wealthy Roman magistrate named Gaius Cestius wanted to project immense wealth and sophistication, so he commissioned this tomb for himself, modeled entirely on the steep pyramids of Nubia.
So it's basically a monument to ancient cultural appropriation and political flexing.
That's a great way to put it, and seeing it from the cart really allows you to grasp the sheer scale of the city's sprawl before you transition to the next phase of the tour.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because that transition takes us to the Appian Way, or the Via Appia Antica, and this is where the tour gets its name. But what is so special about this particular road? I mean, we were just talking about looking at old paving stones.
We are, but those stones represent the zenith of ancient infrastructure. The Appian Way was the superhighway of the ancient world. Wow, okay.
Before this road, moving an army or trade goods down the Italian peninsula was just a slow, muddy nightmare. The Romans engineered this road using deep trenches filled with gravel and sand for drainage.
So it wouldn't wash out.
Right. And they topped it with massive, tightly fitted blocks of volcanic basalt.
It was like an ancient fiber optic network, but for moving legions instead of data.
I love that analogy. It was designed for speed and efficiency. But what's fascinating here is the challenge for a modern tourist. The most preserved, beautiful sections of the Appian Way are located well outside the ancient city walls.
So if you tried to walk from the city center to this part of the Appian Way, it would take you hours.
Oh, you would be totally exhausted before the historical portion of your day even began.
I see the parallel you're drawing here.
Yeah.
The golf cart is essentially mirroring the original intent of the road itself.
Yes.
The road was built for vehicular efficiency and speed, and the tour uses a modern vehicle to achieve that exact same efficiency. You can cover massive amounts of ground, getting the sweeping overview of the city center and the journey out to the countryside in just a 2.5 to 3 hour window.
That is incredible, and the agility of the golf cart has to be key here.
It's vital. A massive 50-person tour bus cannot easily reroute down a narrow Roman side street if there's traffic.
And a walking tour group just can't cover the miles fast enough to see multiple monuments.
Exactly. The golf cart exists in this perfect middle ground of high mobility and intimate access.
And the reviews in our sources actually back that up. There are specific mentions of guides using that agility to their advantage.
Like what?
Well, one traveler praised a guide named Antonella for her ability to perfectly position the cart for photo ops at Caesar's Palace, completely without holding up traffic.
That takes serious skill.
Right. And another review highlighted guides Margarita and Danny, whose pacing was so precise that they managed to maneuver their tour group into a spot to catch a spontaneous glimpse of the Pope giving a mass.
See, you simply cannot pivot a massive tour bus quickly enough to catch a cultural moment like that.
No way. It allows the guides to read the city in real time and just adjust the itinerary dynamically, which is pretty much impossible on a rigid walking tour.
Totally impossible.
Okay, so we've sped down the Appian Way. We're taking in these colossal monuments in the sunshine. But roughly halfway through the tour, the entire environment shifts.
It really does.
We go from the bright, noisy, hot surface of the Roman Empire, and we literally descend into the underworld. We're talking about the Roman catacombs, specifically the Catacomb San Sebastiano.
Yes, and this transition is jarring in the best way possible. The physical contrast is immediate.
How so?
You leave the heat and the ambient noise of the modern city, and you enter a subterranean labyrinth that is cool, damp, and intensely quiet.
Now, before we talk about what is actually down there, we need to address accessibility impartially, because up until this point, the tour sounds like an absolute dream for anyone with mobility issues.
It does.
But what is the reality once you reach the catacombs?
It is a critical distinction that travelers really must understand before booking. The operator explicitly notes that while the golf cart itself is entirely accessible for wheelchairs and strollers, the catacombs are not.
Because you have to leave the cart behind.
You do! Navigating the catacombs requires descending and ascending steep, often really uneven staircases.
So it's not a paved museum floor.
Not at all. The pathways underground are compacted dirt, the corridors are extremely narrow, and the ground is frequently uneven.
And you mentioned it's cool down there.
Yes, the temperature drop is significant, often hovering around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of the summer heat above.
So for anyone with severe mobility limitations, the underground descent might not be feasible, though they can still enjoy the extensive surface-level tour.
That's correct.
So, assuming you are physically able to make the descent and you brought a light sweater, what is the historical context here? Why did the Romans suddenly decide to start burying hundreds of thousands of people in underground tunnels outside the city?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to a combination of strict Roman law and very unique local geology.
Okay, let's hear it.
Ancient Roman law, specifically surrounding the sacred boundary of the city known as the Pomerium, strictly forbade burying the dead within the city walls.
Oh, that was primarily a hygiene measure to prevent disease, right?
Exactly, which makes total sense.
It really does.
So initially, wealthy Romans built elaborate tombs along the roads leading out of the city, like the Appian Way. But as the population exploded, space became a huge premium.
They just ran out of real estate.
Pretty much. Concurrently, you have a major cultural shift occurring in the 1st through 3rd centuries. Early Christians, and eventually many pagans, began rejecting the traditional Roman practice of cremation.
Oh, because Christians specifically believed in the bodily resurrection.
Right, so inhumation, burying the body intact, became essential.
But they still couldn't bury them inside the city, and they were running out of surface space outside the city, so they looked down.
Yes, they did.
But how did they manage to dig hundreds of miles of tunnels without modern excavating equipment? I mean, why didn't the tunnels just collapse on them?
That is where the geology of Rome is completely unique. The region sits on top of massive deposits of volcanic tuff rock.
Wait, volcanic tuff? What is that?
It's highly compacted volcanic ash from ancient eruptions in the Alban Hills.
Volcanic ash? That sounds terrible to dig through.
Actually, it has an incredible physical property.
Yeah.
When it is underground and retains moisture, it's relatively soft. You can carve it away with simple hand tools very easily.
Wow.
But the moment you expose that freshly carved tuff to the air, it oxidizes and hardens into an incredibly solid, stable structure.
That is fascinating. So the Earth itself was practically begging to be carved into. They were essentially creating subterranean apartment complexes for the dead.
Exactly. And because of the gravity of this space, I mean, you are walking past the actual resting places of early believers and ancient citizens' wheel tours, changes the structure of the tour here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, your cart driver does not lead you through the catacombs. They hand you off to a resident, specialized site guide who is a total expert in subterranean history.
And according to the sources, these site guides are phenomenally educated. There's a review from a traveler named Joel S., who specifically praised his catacombs guide, Federico.
I remember that one.
Joel wrote that Federico didn't just read off a list of dates. He broke down the sociology of what it actually meant to be an early believer practicing your faith in secret, underground.
That's so powerful.
Joel noted that the sheer passion of this historical context completely changed the way he reads the New Testament today.
And that really illustrates the profound difference between just seeing a site and actually understanding a site.
Yeah.
When a guide can explain the sociological terror and the intense devotion required to dig these spaces, you stop seeing dusty shelves carved into rock, and you start seeing the humanity of the ancient world.
I can completely imagine that. Emerging from that dark, quiet space back into the bright Italian sunshine must give you a completely different perspective on the city. You realize you're standing on top of layers and layers of human existence.
It is a brilliant structural choice for a tour. It perfectly balances the breezy, high-level overview of the surface city with this deeply intellectual, focused exploration of the underworld.
Okay, so we've covered the heat, the engineering, and the geology. But as promised, we need to address the logistical reality of booking this, especially for travelers with families.
Let's do it.
Let's say I'm listening to this, and I'm totally sold on the history, but I am traveling with a cranky 5-year-old. My immediate thought is, can I just hold my kid on my lap in the golf cart?
This raises an important question, and the short answer is absolutely not.
Not even if they're small.
No, and the reasons go far beyond the tour company's personal policies. This is a matter of strict European Union and Italian highway regulations.
Ah, because these golf carts aren't just driving on a golf course. They are registered vehicles sharing the road with real city traffic.
Precisely. Under Italian law, children from 0 to 12 years old, or anyone under 1.5 meters tall, which is roughly 4'9" must occupy their own dedicated seat.
And they need a car seat.
Yes, they have to use an approved baby chair or booster seat.
So there is zero gray area here. You cannot squeeze 3 small children into a 2-person bench seat just to save some money on tickets.
You really can't. If you arrive at the meeting point and you haven't booked a dedicated seat for your child, the operator legally cannot allow you into the vehicle.
That makes sense. The liability is massive.
It is. If local police catch a driver operating a vehicle with an unrestrained child, the fines range from roughly 83 to over 333 euros.
Yikes. That's a quick way to sour a vacation.
But more critically, the driver faces a 5-point deduction on their commercial license, and repeat offenses can literally lead to a suspension of their livelihood.
Wow, okay. So travelers absolutely need to remember to count every single human being in their party, regardless of age, when purchasing tickets.
Definitely.
Speaking of the purchase, let's look at the actual value here objectively. Through ExcursionPass, adult tickets are roughly $108, and children are around $88.
Which, when you break down the economics of what is included, it's pretty amazing.
You get a lot.
You get a dedicated driver, an electric vehicle, the fuel, audio headsets, bottled water, entrance fees to the catacombs, and 2 separate specialized guides for 3 full hours.
That is a highly competitive price point for a major European capital, and they offer free cancellation up to 24 hours before the experience.
Which is practically a necessity for international travel today, given flight delays and just unpredictable travel schedules.
Absolutely. But setting the strict seatbelt laws aside for a moment, the reviews suggest this tour is actually incredibly well suited for families.
Oh, it completely solves the primary friction points of traveling with children. You eliminate the physical exhaustion of walking, and you eliminate the boredom of standing in front of a monument listening to a dry lecture.
Right. The movement keeps them engaged. Plus, multiple reviewers highlighted what they called the gelato stop.
Yes. The guides are apparently very adept at reading the energy of the group. If they sense the group's attention span is fading, they use the agility of the cart to just pull over at an authentic, off-the-beaten-path gelateria.
Which is the benefit of having that local knowledge. They bypass the crowded tourist traps in the main piazzas and take you to places where the locals actually eat.
So you get your history, your kids are entertained by the ride, and everyone gets a sugar rush to finish the day.
Honestly, that sounds perfect. That brings us back to the core question we started with. We assume that to truly experience Rome, you had to endure the physical hardship of navigating it on foot.
But the evidence suggests the exact opposite. By utilizing a modern electric vehicle, this tour removes the physiological barriers to learning.
Right. It mitigates the urban heat island effect, it bypasses the physical exhaustion, and it uses technology to cut through the noise pollution of the modern city.
It essentially curates your environment so that your brain can actually focus on the engineering of the Appian Way and the solemnity of the catacombs.
So what does this all mean?
I think it leaves us with a fascinating paradox to consider.
Oh.
We often think that by walking where the ancient Romans walked, we are getting closer to their reality. But think about it. The ancient Romans weren't tourists.
No, they were just people living their lives.
Right, and they utilized the most efficient technology of their day to move around their empire. By adopting a highly efficient modern vehicle, we might actually be stripping away the artificial suffering of modern tourism.
Wow, I love that perspective.
It allows us to view Rome not as an endurance test to be survived, but as the complex, layered civilization it actually is.
That is a brilliant point to end on. Taking away the pain doesn't dilute the history. It actually brings it sharply into focus. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive on the travel podcast by Excursion Pass.
It's been so much fun.
We hope this thorough breakdown helped you see exactly how this tour operates, from the volcanic tough rock to the modern highway laws. If you're ready to trade in your walking shoes for a smarter way to explore the ancient world, head over to Excursion Pass to research and book your next adventure. Keep asking questions and keep exploring.